The cog tool, how to use it in Affinity Photo. You can find the cog tool over in the tools. Simply go down to the bottom there and you've got crescent tool and then you've got cog tool. Select that and then go for fill, stroke, etc. And just simply add it. You'll notice as soon as you do that, you get a layer over there called cog. Gives it a nice, however, you can always rename it as well. You can just simply call it cog 1 if you wish. Don't have to keep it as a bracket cog. But what you get straight away, as long as you've got the cog tool selected, and this is a key thing, cog tool selected, you'll see all the settings there, as well as some options here. So you can interactively modify the cog. So you can push it really up to the limits and virtually make it a circle. But you can also just slightly indent it, so it's very subtle, or you can push it all the way down to having a completely different design. Near enough, not a cog at all. Starburst. You can modify, but as you modify that, you'll notice up here, inner radius, that changes as well, and that's what you're changing, the inner radius. You can also do it here as well, so you can just simply set that. But you've got other settings along here. All these features can be changed, but you can change them interactively as well. So you can again move that, and again, as you do that, you'll notice the tooth size changes. Also here, you can modify the curvature. Now the curvature really is very subtle curvature. I mean, we're not talking a huge curvature, but it's still reasonable. Also, you can change this, you can just change that, and you can create, again, a whole range of different designs, more flower-like design. Well, an unusual abstract flower design perhaps, but a flower design all the same. But you can also, of course, still continue to modify the other settings. So you can simply drag that down there. And then you can actually see the curvature probably more effective now. So it really just depends on some of the other settings to make certain that the curvature looks a bit more impressive. However, done all these settings, you can also modify this, of course. You can go and change these. And I'm just going to put that there. Because the next thing, you got teeth. And this is the only one that's not interactive. It's a pity, really. I'm surprised they didn't add that sort of feature along the side where you could sort of zoom it up and zoom it down. Would have been really quite nice. However, that's not available. So what you can do, you can go over here to teeth and you can push that up to 48. Well, that's reasonable. 48 is pretty good. I quite like 48. But what you can do, you can also enter a value. So you can turn around and say, well, I don't want it 48. I want 200. And then you've got 200. You can say, oh, I want 500. And it gets pretty intense then. Of course, you can still modify these other settings. So let's just quickly change inner radius. And you can see then you get a really intense design. Completely not a cog tool in any shape or form. So that's the thing with all of these tools, virtually every single one of them. If you change a few settings, can literally be something completely different, which is really, really good. And you can still, now of course, curvature. It's going to be an interesting one. You can change that. You can hardly see anything then. But you can still modify the others, notch setting, and you can see that will have a minor effect there. And also you can modify the tooth size. And that, of course, has an effect as well. Now, I'm not certain if you can push it up to, I'm not going to do it because it'd probably fall over, knowing my luck. But I'm just going to put it down to a more realistic. Now the slider only goes up to 48. And let's change some of the other settings. So you can see inner radius. Right. So it looks more like a cog. Sort of. More spoke design. However, what you can also do, of course, you can change the fill. Just click there and you don't have to have blue. So you can have grey. You can go for black, orange, green, red, blue, whatever. Whole range of different designs. And you can still modify all these settings, of course. All those sort of things. Also, what you can do, you can go for a gradient. And personally, the quickest way I find of adding a gradient, whoops, didn't want that, top up, cancel. Sometimes click the wrong thing. What I want is the gradient tool. With the gradient tool, with that shape, you can see now with the cog tool selected over here, you can add a gradient. And you can move that around. Very quick and easy. And of course, you can still continue to modify. And you can go for elliptical, you can go for radial, but you can go for bitmap as well. So you can bring in an image. So a bitmap, any image at all, just as long as it's a JPEG file, PNG, etc. I'm not certain if it goes for bitmap. I assume it does, BMP files. don't think it works with PSD. So you probably find there's a few formats that it doesn't like. So you can just use this, or you can just go back to a solid colour again. Personally, most time I keep it that. So let's just reduce that down. What you can then also do, and I personally find this actually probably the best thing, stroke. So you've got the stroke colour, you can change the stroke colour, of course, you can make it red, black, whatever. And of course, it's only 1 point at the moment, but you can extend it to maybe go for 18 points. Let's just push it 18 points. But you've got various other options here as well. Some of them obviously not much use, but you can go for outer, centre, etc. And also you've got this option as well. Though with a cog tool, really curved, but you can go through. I'm really not certain there's any great feature for that, but however, it's there if you want to use an arrow around the thing. I'm certain there is some use. You can also scale with the object, which is, yep, does let me in. Sometimes when I click on these things, you quite often click on them, doesn't seem to want to click. Don't know why. However, also what you can do, you can modify the pressure. And you can see as you do that, you create very different designs. So you've got this lovely design, but it's very thin there, but thicker there. And again, you can still modify a bit more, maybe make it thin there. So you can create a variety of different designs, and you can still modify the width as well. So you can see you can create all kinds of maybe more hand sketch design. Now, this is even more useful if you say go for the fill, I should say, and just go for maybe white, or go for the swatches and just say nothing. So you've got nothing there. So there's no fill at all. And you can still modify the teeth. Going back to teeth, you still modify this, so you can create some interesting designs that way. And again, still continue to modify these settings or not, have a hole there, perfectly reasonable, knot size, all can be changed. And you can create a lovely sort of nice design there. I think that's quite a nice little sort of hand sketch design, quite quick and easy from the cog tool. And again, cog tool there, you've got all the various settings. Again, still a standard layer, and you can duplicate this design, of course. Go over here and you can select the move tool. Photoshop, it's a selection tool. Affinity Photo, so sometimes I interchange them. I think it's selection tool, move tool, it's the move tool, just to cause confusion. And you can hold down the Alt Option key and duplicate, and you see what happens. You end up with two cogs, and they're independent. So if you decide, you know what, I don't want number of teeth to be 36 for that one, I want it to be maybe, you can create a whole range of different designs like that. And you can always delete it. So simply delete it like that. Also what you can do, click there again with this thing, and you can go to the dash settings, and you can set a whole load of dash settings up. I must admit, most time I very rarely do that, but you can, if you want, just change things, and hopefully a dash will appear. Sometimes it does not decide to appear. In this case, it does not want to. So just totally ignore that. Maybe dashes are not available for this tool. Very odd. Anyway, let's just go back to a more basic design there. What you can also do, of course, and I'm going to put fill again. I'm just going to add some colour back into that again. You can go apply filters, of course. You can use filters. Just go to filter and blur, Gaussian blur. So you don't need the design to be, so you just blur it. So that's a nice thing. However, as soon as you do that, you will notice what happens. It becomes a pixel layer. It's a pity. However, there is a workaround, of course, with this. And unfortunately, not every filter is available. But you can go over to make certain that still a pixel. Once it's converted to pixel, you have to undo to put it back to a cog if you want to keep it as a cog. That's just as soon as you apply effect, it's a little layer in between. Slightly confusing, but however, what you can do, you can go to layer, and then new live filter layer, and then blur, exactly the same ones I just did, but use other ones, of course. You've got distortions and things, you've got distort. Unfortunately, I haven't got my favourite, which is deform. You've got liquefy, ripple, etc. Let's say twirl. Let's just go for twirl. And you can bring up the panel and you can apply twirl. So, okay, it doesn't look much like a cog now, but you've got to say this side is still a cog looking design. And just going to close that. You can still access it. You can see over here now in layers. If you go to layers, you've got here the twirl. That's underneath the cog. It still says cog. That's a key thing, because now you can still edit it. So you can still, so the twirl can be edited. So you can click on that and you can bring the panel up again by just double clicking and changing the, say the angle. You want the angle that way, you can do it. So I've got that. But you can also change the cog. So go to the cog tool and you've got all the settings here. And you think, oh, you know what? I don't want that. I can change that still. And that's still editable. And it, of course, will change the over here as well. And also you can modify this and that will change the setting. And you can create, again, a whole range of different designs. Actually quite a nice design. Gives a... The thing is also what you can do with twirl, of course, is double click on that and then you can move it around. So you can decide, you know what, I'm just going to just make that cog in a different shape completely. But it's still live. That's the key thing. Go back to the cog. You can still modify the number of teeth. Let's go for 200. Probably pushing it, but you can still see the lovely design there. And you can do all kinds of different things with that. So also, if you decide, you know what, I don't want twirl, I can always remove it. And it doesn't always remove. Quite often I delete it and I end up deleting a lot, which is not always what I want. Well, let's just change that so you can see that right there. However, what you can also do, you've got this design, and of course you can duplicate it, you can add other effects to it as well, other designs to it. So ellipse tool, so suddenly you say, you know what, I would like this design. So you can add that sort of design, but you can blend them together. So you've got all those selected, every single one of those layers are selected. Then you can go to layer and you can go to geometry, and I'm probably going to go for one that does it wrong. No, sometimes it will not work in the way, and you can always undo. I often do it and I think, you know what, it's going to work, and then it just doesn't divide or intersect in the way that I think it will, and it's the subtract one. I think I've done it 5 million times, doesn't make a difference. I still look at it and think, yeah, wrong one. But you can see now I've got the design lovely like that. And of course you can manipulate it further. There's geometry, you've got separate curves. You can always go for that as well. And then you get that design, which maybe is not what you want. But there's that option if you want that option. So let's just put it back there. But what you can also do, and this is very useful, maybe not with 48, let's just go for a few less than that. Let's just go to about 16. You've got to convert to curves. Now, if you want to, and you want to still keep this, and a good way I always think to do it is that maybe it's not the best way, but that's the way I do it. You've got layer and duplicate. So you can duplicate the layer. Now, I often then go to this one, and you can just turn it off. Don't have to see it. Still there though. And that's a key thing, because if you go and make a mistake, then you can always go back to it. Now, I've got this design here, and I make certain you select the right layer. I don't want to convert that one. What I want to do is convert that one. Doesn't make any difference if it's hidden or not. It's still got it selected. It will still... Right, just going to go for convert to curves. You can also right-click, and there's an option here, convert to curves. You can also convert to a text frame. So if you want to, you can use add text into this as well. It's an interesting design for text, but maybe not what you want. So if you want to do that, convert to curves. So you've got it as curves now. And you'll see as soon as you do convert to curves, it will not be a cog anymore. It's curves, bracket curves. But as bracket curves, it means you can modify it with the node tool, which is super useful. And I'm just going to go down to the node tool there. So there's the node tool. And you will see now you've got your gear, your cog, whatever you want to call it. And you can now modify it a bit more. So you can say, you know what, I want a slightly different cog than that. Obviously you can't change the cogs, the teeth, but you can change the teeth, but you can't change the number of the teeth. And also you can do other things as well, because you can go and select all of these designs, and you can go up here. You've got various conversions. You can convert to smooth. You can create a nice rounded design, nice rounded cog. Don't want that, but I want to go to the next action. There's other actions here. Break curves. That's quite nice as well. Break curves. And what happens? Okay, you end up with this slightly odd shape here, which I don't particularly want, but so I can remove it. But I've got these designs. And okay, I made a slight what's his name with that by editing it. But you can see now, you can select the individual parts and you can modify those individual parts. You can move them. So you can move them around, decide to make a slightly more interesting cog design than before. Something that, you know, would not. So you can select those individual bits and points, nodes, whatever you want to call them. And you can create a whole load of different designs that way. Now I'm just going to select all of those. And you can simply select them all via, one thing that always slightly is odd. I always think that they would be a nice select all these layers feature. And maybe someone will say there is a select all layers feature. I've never seen it. I don't know how to do it. I just go down the bottom, select them all. And delete them if I can do that. Yes, please, delete them all. Oh, there's some that I didn't select, so just delete those. Let's just go back now to the cog tool. There's the cog tool again, because there's one thing I just didn't do at the end, and that's here, effects. So you've got effects as well. It's a layer. So you've got here cog. Just go down to effects. Oh, there's also other things, masks and stuff, adjustments. A load more things you can do with it, but effects. Now, with effects, you've got live effects, so you can just say Gaussian blur. One that I don't use that often. Why is Gaussian blur at the top? Personally, it should be the bottom. The one I use probably the least is the one that's at the top. And it's a pity you can't reorder them. Photoshop, you can reorder layer effects. And it would be brilliant if you could do the same here. But you can't, I don't think. No, you can't. Sort of just try that. But you can see you can do various things. And that's quite nice, actually. So you can preserve alpha. I like that effect. Sort of gives it a nice sort of, I don't know, inner glow. Or inner darkness. Whatever. But you can also go for 3D and radius and all those sort of things. You can set a whole range of different things and close it. And you can always go back to it at some later point. So you can see FX is there. And you can always at any point go to layer and rasterize. So if you want to, just turn it into a pixel layer simply. And I don't want to preserve the layer effect, so I can rasterize and I've got that design. And I can fill the image, hold down the Alt or Option key and fill it with your lovely red cog design. And of course what you can do with that cog design, it's a pixel layer. You can go to filters, or of course layers and layer effects there, filter layers. But you can also go to filter and my favourite, filter and just deform. And just simply deform the design and warp your gear design, if that's what you want to do. Well, I think that's a run through of certainly a number of features you can do with the cog tool. There is a similar tool, cog tool, in the Affinity Designer. I've done a tutorial on that. I think there's more things you can do with in Photo, but it's still pretty useful. Well, hope you found this tutorial of interest. Always adding new tutorials all the time. A like or dislike, a like or a like. That would be nicer, but a like or dislike would be great as well. Thank you much.